Oh, we got him. We took care of it. Yep. You guys.
$50,000 fine or both. Do you understand?
Yes.
Count 2 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree. It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogen, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogen, from which she died, in violation of Idaho Code 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. The maximum penalty for this offense, if you were to plead guilty or be found guilty, is death or imprisonment for life.
What if I told you that 4 college students were sleeping peacefully in their beds when someone crept through their home in the early morning darkness, moving from room to room with calculated, deliberate precision? What if I told you a roommate saw his bushy eyebrows above a black mask, watched him walk right past her bedroom door close enough to touch, but was too paralyzed with fear to make a sound? What if I told you the person responsible was a criminology PhD student who had been systematically circling their house for months like a predator studying prey, his phone connecting to nearby cell towers 23 separate times before that fatal night? And what if I told you that even after he pleaded guilty in court, even after he said yes to every single accusation, even after he signed a confession admitting to every horrific act, we still have absolutely no idea why he did it? This is the story of the Idaho murders. November 13th, 2022. 4 young people with brilliant futures, loving families, and dreams they'll never achieve. One person who methodically took it all away. And a question that will haunt investigators, families, and true crime followers forever. What makes someone capable of this level of calculated violence? But before we go any further into this darkness, I need you to understand something crucial. If you're here watching this video, it's because you're not looking for easy answers or sensationalized entertainment. You want the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. You want to understand how justice works, even when it feels painfully, frustratingly slow. You want to honor victims by understanding their stories completely. That's exactly what we do here at Dark Trail Files. We don't sensationalize tragedy. We investigate with respect and thoroughness. We honor the victims by telling their stories with the dignity they deserve. If that's the kind of content you're searching for, if you believe these stories matter and should be told right, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you think you know about this case. It will make you question assumptions you didn't even know you had. And trust me, you'll want to be here when we cover the next story that demands to be told. Now, let's begin. November 13th, 2022. Moscow, Idaho. A small college town nestled in the rolling hills of the Idaho Panhandle, where students walked home alone at night without fear, where doors stayed unlocked because crime felt like something that happened somewhere else, when neighbors knew each other's names and looked out for one another. At 1122 King Road stood a 3-story rental house shared by 6 University of Idaho students. On the top floor, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, a senior who had just graduated early, and her best friend since 6th grade, Madison Mogen, also 21. The two were inseparable. Middle floor, Xana Kernodle, 20, a marketing major, and her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, 20, a freshman. First floor, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, the two who would survive and carry the weight forever. That Saturday night unfolded like countless others. Kaylee and Madison went to a local bar, then stopped at a food truck around 1:40. Security footage shows them smiling, laughing, ordering food. Just 2 best friends enjoying a night out. They arrived home around 1:45. Xana and Ethan attended a party at the Sigma Chi house before returning. All 6 roommates were home by 2:45. Doors were locked. Lights went off. They had no idea someone was outside, waiting. Because here's what investigators would later discover through months of painstaking digital forensics and cell tower analysis. Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology PhD student at nearby Washington State University in Pullman, just a 15-minute drive across the state border, had been systematically stalking that specific house for months. His cell phone records, subpoenaed and analyzed by investigators, showed his device connecting to a cell tower that services the area near 1122 King Road at least 23 separate times between June and November of 2022. This wasn't someone randomly passing through the neighborhood on their way to somewhere else. This was someone intentionally, repeatedly, methodically positioning himself near that specific house at specific times. He wasn't just passing by. He was studying them, learning their routines, observing their patterns of behavior, planning something that only he understood. In July, 4 months before the attacks, his phone first started appearing in that area regularly. Late at night, early morning hours, circling the neighborhood, watching, learning their patterns. On the night of November 12th going into the 13th, Kohberger's phone went completely dark. At 2:47 in the morning, it disconnected from the cell network. He had turned it off, eliminating his digital trail. Then he drove to King Road. Around 4 in the morning, a neighbor's security camera captured a white sedan, later identified as Kohberger's Hyundai Elantra, driving past the house multiple times. Investigators believe he parked behind the residence and entered through a sliding glass door on the second floor that had been left unlocked. What happened next was swift and brutal. Madison Mogen and Kaylee Goncalves were attacked first on the 3rd floor as they slept. A Ka bar-style knife sheath was left behind on the bed. On that sheath was a single source of male DNA that would be matched to Bryan Kohberger. On the 2nd floor, Xana Kernodle had just received a DoorDash delivery at 4 in the morning. Minutes later, she encountered Kohberger in the hallway. She fought back. Ethan Chapin was attacked in her room. Dylan Mortensen heard something around 4. She heard crying. She heard a male voice say, "It's okay. I'm going to help you." She opened her door 3 times. The 3rd time, she saw him. A figure in black clothing and a mask. She described his eyebrows as bushy. He walked right past the door, heading toward the sliding exit. Then he was gone. At 4:20 in the morning, surveillance cameras from multiple locations in the area captured Kohberger's vehicle leaving the neighborhood at an unusually high rate of speed, accelerating rapidly, nearly losing control around a corner as if the driver was fleeing. He didn't take the main highway back to Pullman. Instead, prosecutors believe he deliberately took a series of back roads to avoid highway traffic cameras that might capture his license plate. Video evidence shows him entering Pullman from the south side around 5:26 in the morning and arriving at his apartment complex several minutes later. His phone reconnected to the cellular network at 4:48, ending the 2-hour digital blackout that coincided almost perfectly with the timeline of the attacks. Dylan Mortensen, paralyzed by a fear she couldn't fully articulate or understand, didn't call for help immediately. She locked her bedroom door and stayed in her room, her mind trying to process what she had seen and heard, trying to convince herself it wasn't what it seemed, that there must be some rational explanation. Hours passed. The sun came up over Moscow. The house was silent. By noon on November 13th, one of the surviving roommates called friends over to the house because something didn't feel right. The bedroom doors were closed and no one was responding. When those friends discovered the horrific scene inside, they immediately called 911. This is the moment everything changes. The moment the machinery of justice wakes up and begins to move. Listen not to the panic in the caller's voice, but to what that call sets in motion. Patrol cars rolling out from the station. Radios crackling to life. Dispatch protocols snapping into action. Procedures that have been practiced 1,000 times suddenly deployed for real. A system activating because 4 young people are already gone and nothing can bring them back. This call can never be undone.
Number 13, 2022. 911 location of your emergency.
Something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the light, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And what's the phone number that you're calling from?
What's your phone number?
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi,
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, but we gotta go check. No, we have to. Is he passed out? What's wrong? She's not waking up.
Okay, one moment. I'm getting help started that way.
Okay, thank you. What's wrong?
Okay, and how old is she?
She's 20.
20, you said?
Yes, 20 years old.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I need someone to stop passing the phone around because I've talked to 4 different people.
Hey, sorry, they just gave me the phone.
Is she breathing?
Hello?
Is she breathing?
No.
Okay.
Please, talk to them, okay? I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them.
Hello.
Okay. I've already sent the ambulance and law enforcement. Stay on the line. If there is a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
Say that again? There's a police here right now.
Okay. If there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it.
We don't have one. Do you have a defibrillator? Yes, we have one.
Are you talking to the officer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to let you go since he's there with you and can help you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
11:59 a.m.
The call came in at 11:58 in the morning on Sunday, November 13th. 8 full hours after the attacks had ended. The caller, one of the friends who had been summoned to the house, reported an unconscious person, not yet understanding the full scope of what had happened inside. What responding officers discovered when they arrived at 1122 King Road was a scene so horrific, so extreme in its violence, that some of the victims were initially unrecognizable. Blood had soaked through mattresses, through floors, pooling in ways that made it difficult for first responders to immediately assess the full extent of injuries. The violence had been targeted, brutal, and efficiently executed. This wasn't rage or passion. This was something calculated. 4 college students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were dead. 2 roommates had somehow survived, spared by someone who had moved through that house with what could only be described as terrifying purpose and control. The question that would haunt investigators for weeks was simple and terrible. Why these 4? Why that house? And why did 2 survive when 4 did not? In the days and weeks after the murders, Moscow transformed from a quiet college town into the epicenter of a media firestorm. Students fled campus by the hundreds. Parents arrived from across the country to pack up dorm rooms and get their children to safety. The university offered remote learning for the semester. Many took it. The community demanded answers. And the Moscow Police Department faced crushing pressure to solve a quadruple homicide with few initial leads and international media attention. The house at 1122 King Road became a crime scene processed for weeks. Yellow police tapes surrounded the property. News vans lined the street doing live shots. The entire town held its breath, waiting for answers that seemed impossibly far away. But investigators had something crucial. That white Hyundai Elantra captured on security cameras around the time of the murders. They began searching DMV records for every white Elantra registered in Idaho and surrounding states. Tens of thousands of vehicles. They went through them line by line, cross-referencing with other data, looking for a match. They found Bryan Kohberger, a criminology PhD student at Washington State University in Pullman, just 15 minutes from Moscow. His research focused on criminal psychology, on understanding how criminals think and justify their actions. He had posted surveys asking people about committing crimes. How did it feel? What emotions did you experience? Investigators had to wonder, was he studying criminals or studying himself? The cell phone data was damning. Kohberger's phone consistently pinged near the victim's house in the months leading up to the attacks. On the night of the murders, his phone went dark at 2:47 in the morning and reconnected at 4:48, a 2-hour window that perfectly aligned with the timeline of the killings. But the most critical piece of evidence was that knife sheath left behind. Investigators sent the DNA to a lab that specializes in genetic genealogy. They built a family tree, and that tree led them to the Kohberger family in Pennsylvania. Police in Pennsylvania began watching Bryan's parents' home, where he had returned for the holidays. They collected trash from the property. On that trash was a Q-tip with DNA that showed a direct parental match to the DNA on the knife sheath. They had their man. On December 30th, 2022, 4 to 7 days after the murders, police arrested Bryan Kohberger at his parents' home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. But here's something most people don't know. Just days before his arrest, as Bryan and his father drove cross-country from Washington to Pennsylvania, they were pulled over. Watch this moment. An ordinary traffic stop. A routine speeding violation. The officer has no idea who he's talking to. Bryan Kohberger sits in that passenger seat, knowing what he's done, knowing what's coming. Normal rules still apply, even to someone accused of the unimaginable. This is the absurd normalcy of law enforcement meeting evil on a highway.
I am Officer Loangus. Stops being audio and video recorded. I think you know why I stopped you. You ran the red light.
What actually happened was I was stuck in the middle of the intersection.
Yeah,
so I was
behind you the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So technically you're not supposed to enter the intersection at all for that reason, because if the light turns red, then you're stuck in the intersection, and then you run the red light. So that's the reason I stopped you. Do you have your license on you?
Yep. We just get this for you out.
You what?
I'm just going to get this out for you.
Okay.
Would you explain that to me a little bit further? So in Pennsylvania, when you're stuck like in the intersection, you have to make the left. So what would the appropriate thing for me to have done?
You're not supposed to block an intersection like that in Washington, so just by you blocking the intersection, that's technically a ticketable violation, and then you're running a red light, so it's another ticketable offense. So you're not supposed to proceed into the intersection until you can go, because a lot of people do what you just did, right? Is like you're sitting in the intersection waiting, and then turns, and then you're blocking, so.
Yeah, there was a little bit of confusion with speeding, because someone had stopped. I wasn't sure what they were doing, and then they put on their light to turn. Mm-hmm. So I thought that maybe they were letting me go through. Oh. Did you see that?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, like right before I made the turn, there was someone who made a right. They didn't have their signal on, so I wasn't sure if they were just waiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would just advise just don't enter the intersection until you can go, so you don't get stuck. Let's see.
But in that situation, the best thing to do then would be back up. And not.
I don't know if there's a best thing to do in that situation, because you're either going to back up into somebody, or you're going to run a red light. So, or you'll be sitting in an intersection. There's not really a great option there.
Yeah, I was just into the crosswalk, so where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines. Like there's one white line and there's another one. Like there's like a certain margin from which you can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
Yeah. So I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through, and you don't when you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage. I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, yeah, I can find it for you. Yeah. One second. That looks good on a Hyundai. I don't see Pennsylvania registration like at all. Okay, let's see. Okay. So I'm not writing a ticket or anything like that today. I understand you're from Pennsylvania, but in the future, don't proceed through the intersection. You can't get stopped for that alone unless you can clearly just clear it right away. So
then basically, I understand.
You're just supposed to wait behind the white line. Drivers do it all the time, but
it never even occurred to me that that was actually something wrong. But well, except for the fact that I was blocking the crosswalk, which is what I went through.
And states vary a lot from laws. Like Pennsylvania might not even have that law, but in Washington we do.
I'm actually just from a very rural area, so we just don't have crosswalks. Unless I visit an area where there are crosswalks, and then it's not very frequent.
Yeah,
I do apologize if I was asking you too many questions about the law. I wasn't trying to
No, not at all. Like I understand you're not from here, so if you don't, a lot of people don't know a bunch of laws. Like I only know it because this is what I do, but yeah. If you're ever curious on any more laws, just RCW, and they can be hard to read because it's in like legal language, but hope that helps.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Hello. How y'all doing? Good. Take your driver's license real quick if I could. See, he's right up on the van, man. He's right up on the back of that van. You're over for tailgating. Is this your car? Okay. Cool. Where you headed?
Well, we come from WSU, and
what's WSU?
University, basically. It's up there in that is SWAT team area.
So I'm having a hard time reading because of the traffic. So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going there?
We're going to be going to the game.
Oh, okay.
We're flying much to drive hours.
Hours, days.
Bryan Kohberger was pulled over for a speeding violation during that drive home. The officer was polite, professional, routine. Kohberger's father was driving. Bryan sat quietly in the passenger seat. The officer wrote a ticket and sent them on their way. That officer had no idea he had just encountered someone who would soon be charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. He wrote his ticket, made small talk, and sent them on their way, never knowing that the man in the passenger seat was carrying the weight of unspeakable acts. Think about that for a moment. How many people did Kohberger pass on that cross-country drive? How many gas stations did he stop at? How many restaurants? How many people made eye contact with him, served him coffee, held the door open, life continuing around him as if nothing had happened, while 4 families in Idaho were choosing caskets and writing eulogies? This is the world we live in, where monsters don't wear signs, where evil can sit beside you at a red light, pump gas at the next pump over, stand behind you in line at a grocery store, and you'd never know. That's the terrifying truth no one wants to face. Evil doesn't announce itself. It blends in. It moves through the world just like everyone else. And here's where the story takes a turn that no one expected. Because Bryan Kohberger wasn't some drifter. He wasn't a stranger to law enforcement or psychology. He was studying it. He knew how investigations worked. He knew about DNA evidence, about cell phone tracking, about behavioral analysis. So why did he leave that knife sheath behind? Why did he turn his phone back on so close to the crime scene? Why did he return to the area multiple times in the days after, driving past the house, parking nearby, watching the police work? Was it arrogance, curiosity, or something else entirely? Keep watching, because what happens next will challenge everything you think you know about this case. Bryan Kohberger was extradited to Idaho on January 5, 2023. His first court appearance was scheduled for January 12th. This is the moment Bryan Kohberger stopped being a name in headlines and became a face in a courtroom. Watch him. Silent. Emotionless. standing under the weight of accusations that would horrify anyone with a conscience. The families of the victims are there, seeing him in person for the first time. This is what it looks like when someone accused of taking 4 lives has to stand before those who love them. The psychological weight of that room is crushing.
Oh, we took care of it. You get
$50,000 fine or both. Do you understand?
Yes.
Count 2 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree. It alleges that the defendant, Bryan Kohberger, on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogen, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogen, from which she died, in violation of Idaho Code 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. The maximum penalty for this offense, if you were to plead guilty or be found guilty, is death or imprisonment for life.
Kohberger appeared in court wearing a red jail jumpsuit. He said nothing. His expression was flat, emotionless. Defense attorneys would later attribute this to autism spectrum disorder, explaining his lack of visible effect. But to the families watching, his silence felt like another form of violence. He was formally charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. If convicted, he faced the death penalty. Kohberger's defense team entered a not guilty plea on his behalf at his May arraignment. He remained silent, refusing to speak the words himself. The defense immediately began building their case, arguing that Kohberger was simply driving around that night, something he often did to look at the stars or go hiking. They called it his alibi. But there was a problem. No one could vouch for where he actually was during the murders. Meanwhile, investigators continued building their case. They discovered more damning evidence. In the days after the attacks, classmates reported seeing scratches on Kohberger's face and hands. When asked about them, he claimed he'd been in a car accident. But there was no car accident. They found his online search history. He had searched for information about the University of Idaho murders before they were made public. He had searched for Ted Bundy. He had looked up Britney Spears' song Criminal. And here's something chilling. Investigators revealed that Kohberger took a selfie in front of a mirror the morning after the murders, giving a thumbs up. Kaylee Goncalves' father would later call it a trophy photo. But despite all this evidence, Kohberger's defense team fought hard. They filed motion after motion. They argued the case should be moved out of Latah County due to pretrial publicity. They sought to suppress DNA evidence, cell phone records, the knife sheath. They lost almost every motion. This is what justice actually looks like. Not dramatic courtroom revelations or surprise witnesses. Just calendars, filings, procedural arguments about evidence admissibility. Watch how slowly the wheels turn. While families relive their trauma every single day, the court moves inch by inch through legal technicalities. This is the exhausting reality of seeking justice.
Ms. Taylor, Mr. Logsdon, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Jennings appearing on behalf of the state. This is the time set in the matter for the preliminary hearing status conference. So I am going to inquire of... And Mr. Thompson, are you in agreement with that?
The state has no objection to that, Your Honor. And Ms. Taylor reached out to us by email yesterday with her proposal. On reflection, the state's calendar would be better in the month of July, but we will make the end of June work if that's the court's preference. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Ms. Taylor about that. I'm sorry, I know that's last minute.
That's okay. The court's calendar is going to be better towards the end of June, early July. So would that work, Ms. Taylor, for your scheduling on your other matters?
Your Honor, yes. If we take that 4th week in June, that's actually best.
Okay. So, Mr. Kohberger, I need to speak to you for a moment then. Sir, you do understand, and you had enough time to speak with Ms. Taylor about your decision to waive your right to a speedy preliminary hearing.
Yes.
Do you need any additional time to do so?
No.
Then I will ask at this time as to the 5 counts, felony counts that were charged in the criminal complaint that was filed on December 29th of 2022. Beginning Monday, June 26th at 9:00 a.m. And I will go ahead and reserve the week, so June 26th to June 30th. In the event that we need all 5 days for presentation of evidence. And just so council knows, it will begin at 9 a.m. each of those days. Is there anything further to address at this time in the case, Mr. Thompson?
Not from the state's perspective, Your Honor, no.
All right. Or Ms. Taylor?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Kohberger, then you will be remanded into custody on your same no bail at this point in time, pending further proceedings. Again, we'll send notice out to council, and we will be in recess for this morning.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The case dragged on for months, then years. The trial was originally set for October 2023. Then it was pushed to 2024. Then 2025. Each delay was another wound for the families. Another holiday without their children. Another birthday that would never be celebrated. Kaylee's family became increasingly vocal about their frustration. They wanted answers. They wanted the death penalty. They wanted Kohberger to face a jury and hear guilty verdicts read aloud. They wanted him to understand what he had taken from them. But the defense kept filing motions. They wanted to present an alternate perpetrator theory, suggesting 4 other individuals could have committed the crimes. The judge reviewed the evidence and called it rank speculation. Nothing connected those individuals to the scene. The motion was denied. By June 2025, the trial date was finally set. Jury selection would begin August 11th. Opening statements on August 18th. After 2.5 years, the families would finally get their day in court. Or so they thought. Because on June 30th, 2025, just 6 weeks before the trial was set to begin, something happened that shocked everyone involved. Prosecutors received a call from Kohberger's defense team. They wanted to make a deal. And what happened next would divide the victims' families and leave some of them feeling betrayed by the very system that was supposed to deliver justice. What was that deal? And why did prosecutors agree to it? The answer will surprise you. On July 2nd, 2025, Bryan Kohberger stood in court and did something he had refused to do for 2.5 years. He spoke. And what he said would close one chapter while leaving another painfully open. Kohberger pleaded guilty to all charges. 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of burglary. In exchange, prosecutors agreed to take the death penalty off the table. He would receive 4 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole, plus 10 years for the burglary charge. The judge asked him directly, "Did you kill Madison Mogen?" "Yes." "Did you kill Kaylee Goncalves?" "Yes." "Did you kill Xana Kernodle?" "Yes." "Did you kill Ethan Chapin?" "Yes." 4 times he said yes. For lies he admitted to taking. And yet his expression never changed. No tears. No remorse. Just flat, emotionless responses. The prosecutor provided extensive details that had never been made public before, walking the courtroom through the evidence step by step. He explained how Kohberger's phone had been near the house 23 times in the months before the murders, creating a pattern of surveillance. How his vehicle was captured on multiple security cameras that night, moving through the neighborhood. How he had parked behind the house in a less visible area, entered through the sliding door, gone to the third floor first where Madison and Kaylee were sleeping. The prosecutor revealed that Kohberger likely encountered Xana in the hallway unexpectedly. That may not have been part of his plan, but he attacked her anyway. Then he attacked Ethan. The DNA on the knife sheath was the final piece. A single source of male DNA that matched Kohberger's. He had left it behind, perhaps in his rush to leave, perhaps because he couldn't find it in the dark. But here's what the plea deal didn't include: a motive. Kohberger was not required to explain why he did it. The prosecutor admitted they didn't know which victim was the specific target. They didn't know if Kohberger had any connection to the students. They had searched for links and found none. As part of the agreement, Kohberger waived his right to appeal. He would spend the rest of his life in an Idaho prison. There would be no more trials, no more motions, no more delays. For some families, this brought relief. Madison Mogen's parents released a statement saying the plea represented the best outcome possible. They didn't want years more of trial and appeals. They wanted it to be over. But for Kaylee Goncalves' family, the plea felt like a betrayal. They issued a statement saying the deal represented an easy way out and no answers. They had wanted Kohberger to face a jury. They had wanted the death penalty. They had wanted to watch him squirm under cross-examination. Most of all, they wanted to know why. Why their daughter? Why that house? Why that night? And the plea deal gave them none of those answers. The families were given less than 48 hours notice before the plea hearing. Some had to scramble to rearrange their lives and drive 6 hours from Moscow to Boise. They felt rushed, shut out of a process that should have centered them. This raises an uncomfortable question. Who is justice really for? Is it for the families of the victims, who wanted their day in court? Or is it for the state, which wanted to avoid the risk and expense of a death penalty trial? There's no easy answer. In the immediate aftermath of the murders, the two surviving roommates became subjects of intense scrutiny and conspiracy theories online. People questioned why they weren't attacked. Some cruelly suggested they were involved. The truth was much simpler and more tragic. They were young women who heard something terrifying, froze in fear, and then had to live with survivor's guilt. 3 days after the murders, police interviewed Bethany Funk, one of the surviving roommates. Watch this footage not for what she says, but for what you see in the silences, the pauses, the emotional distance. This is what trauma looks like when someone is trying to articulate the unarticulated in a room designed for facts, not feelings. The gaps in her responses are not evasion. They are shock trying to form words.
She just knocked on my door, I think, during and asked if I had breakfast and
Okay. Then what happened after that?
I just went to bed, and then I woke up and I was like half asleep, and I just thought I saw like a firework or something, like it just sparkled like under my door, and then I thought I heard like something kind of fall, and then Murphy barked, but I thought people were just making like food, like, and Ethan was here or something and knocked something over because he's usually loud in the kitchen upstairs.
Okay. So what do you mean by you heard a firework?
It sounded like a little firework, and then there was like a spark. I went by my, like, I'm on the bottom floor.
Okay.
So it kind of looked like it came down there, but I don't know.
So is Murphy your dog?
Kaylee's dog.
Kaylee's dog?
Kaylee and her ex-boyfriend's dog.
Okay. So you heard Murphy bark right after you heard what you thought was a firecracker?
But yeah, something like that. Like, I don't know, dogs bark at random things. And sometimes when he's happy, he'll bark.
Okay. It didn't sound like an angry growl or anything like that, just a bark?
I don't really know. I was like half asleep.
Okay.
It just sounded like bark.
So, hear the firework, kind of see a spark underneath the door, Murphy barks. What did you hear after that?
Pretty much nothing. That's it.
Okay. And you thought maybe someone was just in the kitchen at that point?
Yeah, just like someone accidentally fell into the table or something.
Okay.
And she was like, this would be...
Do you know about what time that might have been? Do you have any idea?
4 or something. I tried to call all the... at like 4:20ish. Around that time, and no one was answering. I thought they just went to bed or something.
Okay. So what happened after that?
Called me, and she said she thinks she saw someone. And I didn't know, like, really what to think of it, because sometimes we think we hear things a lot in the house, but it's usually just Ethan walking around. But she came, I told her to come in my room, and she could sleep with me and we could lock the door and just stay in there just in case if there was anything, and that's all I knew. And then fell back asleep.
You didn't hear anything else? Okay. No one else talking? Okay. Did you get to your room then? Okay. What time do you think she got in your room?
Around 4:20, 4:30.
Okay, about the same time?
Yeah.
Where's her room located to yours?
I'm the only one on the bottom floor, right by the front door.
Okay.
And then you go up the stairs, and Xana's room, and Xana's room, the kitchen, and then upstairs is Madden King's.
Okay. And where's the room?
Right by the kitchen.
Right by the kitchen? Okay. And did she say anything to you when she got into the room?
She said she thought she saw me in, but I didn't know what to think of it. I was like still half asleep, and I was like, I didn't know. I don't know. It didn't sound like I didn't hear screams, I didn't hear anything, so I didn't really know.
Okay. But notice that she didn't say anything more than she just saw someone.
Yeah, that's all I remember.
Bethany Funk was on the first floor that night. She didn't hear what Dylan heard. She woke up the next morning to a nightmare she couldn't process. In her police interview, you can see someone struggling to make sense of the senseless. Her responses are halting, fractured. She's not withholding information. She simply doesn't have answers that make sense yet. This is the cruelty of being a witness to aftermath. You didn't see the crime. You can't help solve it. But you're forever connected to it anyway. Dylan Mortensen faced even harsher judgment. She saw the suspect. She saw him walk past her door. Why didn't she call 911 immediately? Why did she wait hours? The answer is simple. She was terrified. She was a young woman who heard crying, heard a male voice, and saw a masked figure in her home. Her brain told her to hide, to stay quiet, to survive. Fight, flight, or freeze. She froze, and that decision likely saved her life. For 2.5 years, Dylan lived with that weight. The what ifs, the guilt, the judgment from people who have never experienced that kind of fear. At the sentencing hearing, Bethany Funk had something she needed the court to hear. But trauma had stolen her voice. So someone else had to carry her words into that courtroom. This is what it means when violence doesn't just take lives. It takes voices, too. Watch as a friend speaks the words Bethany couldn't. This is borrowed speech for someone whose ability to speak was broken.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be speaking on behalf of Bethany, and so, yeah, here it reads. My name is Bethany Funk, and I was roommates with Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. I not only lost some of my best friends, but I also lost a sister. Never in a million years would I have thought that something like this would have happened to my closest friends. I thought that we were going to wake up and go upstairs, see them and tell them how they had scared us, and that they were going to tease us about how we are constantly scaredy cats. And make jokes about it as we would go to Taco Bell like always. But sadly, that is not what happened and what turned out to be my worst nightmare. When I first woke up that morning, I had no idea what happened. I woke up around 7 with a terrible toothache, so I called my dad, who is a dentist, and he asked what I should do. He told me to take Advil, so I did, and I went back to sleep. I was still out of it and still didn't know what happened. If I had known, I of course would have called 911 right away. I still carry so much regret and guilt for not knowing what had happened and not calling right away, even though I understand it wouldn't have changed anything, not even if the paramedics had been right outside the door. I was so frantic that morning and scared to death, not knowing what had happened. And when I made the 911 call, I couldn't even get out the words. And from then on, I don't remember a thing. It was like my brain wiped that whole memory. That was the worst day of my life. And I know it always will be. While I was still in shock, trying to process the fact that my friends were truly gone, I had been attacked by the public. I was grieving, numb, and unsure of what had happened was even real. And at the same time, I was getting flooded with death threats and hateful messages from people who did not know me at all or know the dynamic of our friendship. Social media made it so much worse, and strangers made up stories to entertain themselves. The media harassed not just me, but also my family. People showed up at our house. They called my phone, my parents' phones, other family members' phones, and we were chased while I was still trying to survive emotionally and grieve the loss of my friends. I hated and still hate that they are gone, but for some reason, I am still here and I got to live. I still think about this every day. Why me? Why did I get to live and not them? For the longest time, I could not even look at their families without feeling sick with guilt. I did not know what to say or what to do. I was terrified that my presence just made their pain worse, and I was still here when their kid, their siblings and their friends, their loved ones should have been here instead. After everything happened, I was afraid to go into my own backyard or alone in my house. I was scared that the person who did this would come for me next. I was always scared that the media would try to catch me at any moment of any day, even when I was just walking around my house. I made my parents close all the blinds during the day so no one could see me even in the slightest chance. I barely left the house, and when I did, I made sure I was never alone. I slept in my parents' room for almost a year. I made them double lock every door, set an alarm, and still check everywhere in the room just in case someone was hiding. And I still check my room every night before, and I double lock it. I have not slept through a single night since this happened. I constantly wake up in panics, terrified. Someone is breaking in, or someone is here to hurt me, or I'm about to lose someone else that I love. The fear never really leaves. For a long time, I could barely get out of bed, but one day I realized I have to live for them. They did not get the chance to keep living, but I do, and I will not take that for granted. So now every day I remind myself to live for them, and everything I do it with them in mind. I am still scared to go out in public, but I force myself to do things because I know that they would want me to keep living my life to the fullest. I am beyond blessed to still be here, and I refuse to take that for granted when they did not get a chance. Our house was not just a house, it was a home. It was where we laughed till we couldn't breathe, make meals, did crafts, binge watch reality shows, played games, and spent lazy days on the couch. It was movie nights, wine nights, morning debriefs, pranks, hot chocolate, cookies, and warmth. I will cherish those memories forever, and I will not let what happened erase how special our home was or how much those memories meant to me.
Bethany's statement, read by her friend, spoke to the lasting impact of that night. The nightmares, the hypervigilance, the way certain sounds or smells trigger her back to November 13th. She survived physically, but part of her died that night too. This is the invisible aftermath, the survivors who carry scars no one can see. And then, for the first time, Dylan Mortensen stood up and spoke, not as the witness from that night, not as the girl who froze, but as someone who has been permanently shaped by survival. This is not testimony. This is aftermath given voice. Listen to what resilience sounds like when it has no choice but to speak.
Next is Dylan Mortensen. We're asking for some accommodations for Miss Mortensen and that she be allowed to sit in my seat.
Sure. Dylan, just take your time, all right?
Sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor. What happened that night changed everything. Because of him, for beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason. He didn't just take their lives. He took the light they carried into every room. He took away how they made everyone feel safe, loved, and full of joy. He took away the ability for me to tell them that I love them and that I'm so proud of them. He took away who they were becoming and the futures they were going to have. He took away birthdays, graduations, celebrations, and all the memories that we were supposed to make. All of it is gone. And all the people who loved them are just left to carry that weight forever. He didn't just take them from the world. He took them from me, my friends, my people who felt like my home, the people I looked up to and adored more than anyone. He took away my ability to trust the world around me. What he did shattered me in places I didn't know could break. I was barely 19 when he did this. We had just celebrated my birthday at the end of September. I should have been figuring out who I was. I should have been having the college experience and starting to establish my future. Instead, I was forced to learn how to survive the unimaginable. I couldn't be alone. I had to sleep in my mom's bed because I was too terrified to close my eyes. Terrified that if I blinked, someone might be there. I made escape plans everywhere I went. If something happens, how do I get out? What can I use to defend myself? Who can help? And then there are the panic attacks. The kind that slam into me like a tsunami out of nowhere. I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't stop shaking. All I can do is scream because the emotional pain and the grief is too much to handle. My chest feels like it's caving in. Sometimes I drop to the floor with my heart racing, convinced something is very wrong. It's far beyond anxiety. It's my body reliving everything over and over again. My nervous system never got the message that it is over, and it won't let me forget what he did to them. People call me strong. They say I'm a survivor, but they don't see what my new reality looks like. They don't see the panic attacks, the hypervigilance, the exhaustion, the way I scan every room I enter, the way I flinch at sudden sounds. They don't know how heavy it is to carry so much pain and still be expected to keep going, and that's because of him. He stole parts of me I may never get back. He took the version of me who didn't constantly ask, what if it happens again? What if next time I don't survive? He may have shattered parts of me, but I'm still putting myself back together. Piece by piece, I'm learning how to live in this new version of life. It is not easy. It hurts, but I'm still trying. Still trying, and I'm not trying just for me. I'm trying for them, my friends. About a year ago, I had a dream about them. I got to say goodbye. I told them I won't be able to see you again, so I need to tell you goodbye. They all kept asking why, and all I could say was, I can't tell you, but I have to. When I woke up, I felt shattered and heartbroken, but also strangely grateful. Like maybe in some way that dream gave us the goodbye we never got. Still, no dream can replace them, and no goodbye will ever feel finished. He is a hollow vessel, something less than human. A body without empathy, without remorse. He chose destruction. He chose evil. He feels nothing. He tried to take everything from me. My friends, my safety, my identity, my future. He took their lives, but I will continue trying to be like them, to make them proud. Living is how I honor them. Speaking today is to help me find some sort of justice for them. And I will never let him take that from me. He may have taken so much from me, but he will never get to take my voice. He will never take the memories I had with them. He will never erase the love we shared, the laughs we had, or the way they made me feel seen and whole. Those things are mine. They are sacred, and he will never touch them. I get to feel sadness. I get to feel rage. I get to feel joy even when it's hard. I get to feel love even when it hurts. I get to live. And while I will still live with this pain, at least I get to live my life. He will stay here, empty, forgotten, and powerless.
Dylan, thank you so much for your courage.
Dylan's statement was raw and powerful. She spoke about living with the image of that masked figure burned into her memory, about the guilt of surviving when her friends didn't, about the online harassment she faced from people who thought they knew better than she did about what she should have done. She ended with something profound. She said she was tired of being judged for her trauma response, tired of people thinking they would have acted differently, tired of being a witness when she wanted to be invisible. Dylan Mortensen didn't ask to be part of this story, but she will carry it for the rest of her life. The surviving roommates had spoken, but now it was time for the families to face the man who destroyed their lives. What do you say to someone who took your child? How do you put devastation into words? What comes next isn't just victim impact statements. It's love refusing to be silent. Stay with me. On July 23, 2025, Bryan Kohberger appeared in court for sentencing. This time, he wore jail attire. He no longer had the presumption of innocence. He was a convicted killer, and everyone in that room knew it. Kaylee Goncalves' sister, Olivia, had something to say to the man who took his sister. Watch what happens when love transforms into rage. Not the destructive kind, but the kind that refuses to let someone be forgotten. This isn't hostility. This is devotion refusing to be quiet. This is a sister speaking where silence would feel like betrayal.
Hello, I'd like to start by thanking the court for allowing me the time and opportunity to speak today. My name is Olivia, and I'm the big sister of Kaylee Goncalves, and I was blessed to love Madison Mogen as a sister too. I'm not here today to speak in grief, I'm here to speak in truth. Because the truth is, my sister Kaylee and her best friend Maddie were not yours to take. They were not yours to study, to stalk, or to silence. They were two pieces of a whole, the perfect yin and yang. They are everything that you could never be. Loved, accepted, vibrant, accomplished, brave, and powerful. Because the truth about Kaylee and Maddie is they would have been kind to you. If you had approached them in their everyday lives, they would have given you directions, thanked you for the compliment, or awkwardly giggled to make your own words less uncomfortable for you. In a world that rejected you, they would have shown mercy. Because the truth is, I'm angry. Every day I'm angry. I'm left shouting at the inside of my own head everything I wish I could say to you. The truth about me is when I heard the news, I didn't cry. I listened for them. I promised them I would. That I would fight for them. That I would show up, no matter what it cost me. I swore I'd never let them feel alone. Because you see, I've always been their heavyweight. I've always been the one to fight the battles they didn't feel ready to fight themselves. All it ever took was a call, and they knew I would handle it for them, no matter the time, no matter the cost. They could wave their white flag because they knew I would never back down, not for them. And not even death could change that. Somewhere along the line, I started to think about what I would say to them if I was given just one last chance. If I could gather enough heartbreak or love or sacrifice or whatever it took to get just one message across. What would I say? Throughout this entire process, I've written my feelings down at every moment, my wishes, my love, my denial, my anger. And as one final act of love, I'd planned to read these thoughts, even jarring and discombobulating and not even making sense. Because for me, that was true love. As bare and as naked as it could be, not laced in pretty words or dressed for the occasion, but written through bleary eyes at 2 a.m. with clenched fists, angry at this reality. My true final act of love was to continue on without them, for them. That dream to read aloud my love to them, to bring meaning through pain, was the latest blow in realizing you don't deserve it. And Kaylee and Maddie don't need it. Kaylee and Maddie have always known my love, and they would never ask me to prove it by further victimizing myself to a defendant who has shown no guilt, no remorse, no apprehension. They would say to me, "Why would you give the satisfaction of showing vulnerability now? You promised you would never back down." And for that clarity, I'm thankful. I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. I won't offer you trembling. Disappointments like you thrive on pain, on fear, and on the illusion of power. And I won't feed your beast. Instead, I will call you what you are. Sociopath, psychopath, murderer. I will ask the questions that reverberate violently in my own head, so loudly that I can't think straight most any day. Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this time. Why did you choose my sisters? Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Detail what you were thinking and feeling. Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? How does it feel to know the only thing you failed more miserably at than being a murderer is trying to be a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? Why November 13th? Did you truly think your Amazon purchase was untraceable because you used a gift card? How do you find it enjoyable to stargaze with such a severe case of visual snow? Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words? Please describe in detail the level of anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your family home on December 30th, 2022. Which do you regret more? Returning to the crime.
Olivia Goncalves stood before the court and spoke directly to Kohberger. Her words were sharp, controlled, powerful. She told him that Kaylee and Madison were not his to take, not his to study, not his to stalk, not his to silence. She told him that they were everything he could never be: loved, accepted, vibrant, accomplished, brave, powerful. She made sure he understood that his name would be forgotten while theirs would be remembered, that he would rot alone while they would be celebrated by everyone who knew them. It was anger as an act of love, fury as a form of protection, a sister making absolutely certain that her sister's voice would not be drowned out by his actions. And then Madison's father, Ben Mogen, stood to speak. Watch this moment carefully. This is what controlled grief sounds like. A man who knows no words can undo what happened, but speaks anyway. Not with rage like Olivia. With something quieter. Something that somehow hurts more. This is restraint in the face of unbearable loss. This is a father speaking into a void, knowing his daughter will never hear him, but needing to be heard anyway.
Now it's Ben Mogen, Maddie Mogen's father.
I'm Benjamin Mogen. I'm Maddie's dad. And first I just want to say thanks to all the people that helped bring this all to a close. I know it's not the resolution that everyone, wanted, but I think that that everyone worked so hard, and we really appreciate all their efforts. It was such a hard thing to go through for everybody. Maddie was my only child that I ever had. She's the only great thing I ever really did, and the only thing I was really ever proud of. And I thought we would have the rest of our lives together to be together and to know each other, and I took for granted the times, she was in college, and I thought, oh, well, we'll have the rest of our lives to do all the stuff that we're supposed to do, and she was just about done. She actually earned all of her credits for her college degree, and Karen and Scotty and I got to go and get her diploma that she actually earned, and she served every bit of that. And but I thought that was going to be just the beginning of a long life together, and we never got that. Karen and Scotty did such a great job raising her after Karen and I split up, and I'm so thankful for Scotty and the role that he played in her life when I wasn't able to. But we got to spend a lot of great times together, Maddie and I. She was my favorite person to go to a concert with. We got to see some fun shows together, and I told her, if there's ever a show that you want to go to, let me know, and I'll get you tickets for you and your friend, or if we want to go together, we'll make it happen. And my favorite memory with her was when the Mac Miller show sold out here in Spokane, and everyone wanted tickets, no one could get them, and on the last day before the show, they did a radio thing, and I got 4 meet and greet tickets for Maddie and her friends and me to go and see the show, and that was her favorite artist at the time, was Mac Miller, and he's gone now too, and my little cousin Zach drove us all there that night, and he's gone too, tragically, and anyway, the last thing that she ever wrote to me was this Father's Day card, and I'm so glad I still have it. I'm just going to read what she said. It says, "Happy Father's Day. I hope you have the best day. I can't wait till we can hang out again soon. I'll be in Coeur d'Alene 624 to 74. Hopefully we can find a time then. I love your birthday card that you sent me, by the way. Maybe we can see a concert sometime soon. I'd love to see the gorge when it's not so smoky out. I hope you're doing well. I'm proud of how far you've come. Thank you for always encouraging me to do my best. Love you lots and lots. Love, Maddie Mae. She did encourage me to not just to do my best, but to live on. I went through a lot of issues with addiction and with substance abuse, and when I wasn't wanting to live anymore, she was what would keep me from just not caring anymore, and knowing that she was out there and that she was just such a beautiful person kept me alive a lot of rough moments, and I'm so glad that she was able to meet Jake. He was the only one that I actually ever got to take her to the gorge. They went and saw Watershed together, and yeah, they had a heck of a time. I'm just glad she got to. That's a really special place for me, and she always wanted to work out there with me in the summer sometime. She never got to, but at least she got to see it once with Jake. He was such a great guy. He is such a great guy. And I really wanted to see what a future with them would have looked like. I'll never be able to replace her. I wrote a bunch of stuff. I just don't know what to say right now. I just miss her so much, and I just love her more than anything. And this shouldn't happen. And a death sentence is one thing. When it's going to happen, and it's going to be all gentle and stuff. But life without parole, with a building full of people that all just want you to not be around anymore, and winking at every morning, not knowing if that's the day they're going to pull your card. I mean, it's not a very nice sentence either. So, I don't know. I just love you, Maddie, and I wish you were still here.
Ben Mogen's statement was different, quieter. He didn't yell at Kohberger. He barely looked at him. Instead, he spoke about Madison, who she was, what she loved, how much light she brought to every room. He talked about the future she would never have, the graduations, the wedding, the grandchildren he would never meet. He spoke about the empty chair at every family dinner, the birthday cards he still buys but has nowhere to send. And then he said something that cut deeper than any accusation. He said he forgave Kohberger, not because Kohberger deserved it, but because Ben refused to let hatred consume what was left of his life. He refused to give Kohberger that power. That kind of grace in the face of ultimate loss is devastating to witness. It's not weakness. It's a different kind of strength. Ethan Chapin's family and Xana Kernodle's family also spoke. Each statement was unique in its pain. Each one honored a life that was stolen. Each one reminded everyone in that room that these were not just victims. They were children, siblings, friends, partners. They were people with dreams and plans and futures. And then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The sentence. Life in prison. 4 consecutive life terms. No possibility of parole. Watch what closure looks like. Or rather, watch what the absence of closure looks like. Because when the judge finishes speaking, what changes? The dead don't return. The pain doesn't end. Lives don't resume. This is finality, not closure. And there's a difference.
All right, does the defense have evidence to present today?
No evidence.
All right. Does defense wish to make argument today?
Runner, we do not wish to make arguments. Mr. Kohberger, along with his legal team, is prepared for the court to enter judgment.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Well, please. All right, let me start this morning by acknowledging and thanking those that have come here today in support of their loved ones. And I appreciate your courage and your strength. And I hope that you are able to move on as best as possible. Thank counsel for the professionalism that they've exhibited throughout this case. It has been my great honor to preside in this case and to help bring, to the extent possible, some resolution and hopefully justice to this case. During the quiet morning hours of November 13, 2022, a faceless coward reached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them, 4 of them. Who committed this unspeakable evil was unknown for several weeks, but due to the killer's incompetence and outstanding police work by numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss. No parent should ever have to bury their child. This is the greatest tragedy that can be inflicted upon a person. Parents who took their children to college in a truck filled with moving boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins. The loss this killer inflicted was not just the death of these people's children, siblings, grandchildren, as we've heard today. It has ripped a hole in their soul, destroying a special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves foremost as such. It is their existence and purpose of being. And it has been stolen from these parents. None of us have experienced the loss these victims have in the unspeakable way that they have. And therefore, none of us can, nor should we, question the way in which they have handled their loss. Whether that be in private mourning, removed as far as possible from this media circus, or in front of a camera demanding retribution with the loudest megaphone. I've listened intently to the stories and pain that have been shared today, with great awe at the courage and resilience of the surviving family members of those wonderful children. I've listened also to the surviving roommates, both in person and through their friends. And I can't think of how, frankly, courageous they have been despite the hell that they have faced by uncaring people who have come up with all kinds of crazy theories about 2 kids simply being kids. The parents, siblings, and other family members who have spoken today are designated as victims in our legal system. But going forward, I hope that they can shed that label, as it gives too much power to the evil that condemned them to that role. They are and should be known as survivors, fighters, and foremost as witnesses to the tremendous lives of value and unbounded promise of these 4 young people. But those speaking today and those who did not speak, but who carry this same burden, this same loss, now carry forward the memories of these now perpetually young people, these forever children. These survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, are never forgotten, and the positive impacts that they have had on so many lives are never minimized, and that the love they shared, the light that they shined onto others, is forever celebrated. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why. But upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed? Rather, I suspect the so-called reason would be dished out in enticing, self-serving, and aggrandizing, untruthful bits, leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight into his why, I suspect it would not in any way quench one's thirst for actually understanding why in the first instance.
The judge sentenced Kohberger to 4 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole, plus 10 years for burglary. He would die in prison. There was no other outcome possible. But as the judge spoke, something became clear. This wasn't closure. This was just the end of a legal process. The families would leave that courtroom and go home to houses that still felt empty. They would wake up tomorrow and their children would still be gone. A guilty plea and a sentence don't heal that wound. They just mark it as permanent. Kohberger was asked if he wanted to speak. He declined. To the very end, he gave them nothing. No apology. No explanation. No remorse. Just silence. He was taken away to Idaho Maximum Security Institution, where he now lives in solitary confinement 23 hours a day. He will never leave that facility. He will grow old there, if he lives that long. His life, as he knew it, is over. But so are theirs. For young people who should be graduating, starting careers, falling in love, building lives. They don't get to do any of that because of one person's decision to take what wasn't his to take. Even with a guilty plea, even with a signed confession, we still don't know the most important thing. Why? Why did Bryan Kohberger drive to 1122 King Road that night? Was one of the victims a specific target? Or were they all just random? Police have said they searched for any connection between Kohberger and the students and found none. They weren't in the same classes. They didn't frequent the same places. There's no evidence he followed them on social media. So why that house? Why those 4 people? Some have speculated that Kaylee, who had just graduated and was about to move to Texas, was the target. But there's no evidence for that. Others have suggested Kohberger was conducting some kind of twisted experiment, studying what it felt like to commit the very crimes he was researching. But that's just speculation. The truth is, we may never know. And that might be the cruelest part of all. Because without a why, the families are left with a randomness that's somehow worse than knowing. At least with a motive, there's a story you can tell yourself. There's a reason, even if it's a terrible one. But without that, it's just chaos. Just evil for the sake of evil. The knife used in the attacks has never been found. Investigators conducted extensive searches but came up empty. Kohberger used software to wipe his electronic devices before police could examine them. He covered his tracks wherever possible, and yet he left that knife sheath behind. An experienced criminology student who knew about DNA evidence made that one critical mistake. Was it an accident? Or did some part of him want to be caught? We'll never know, because Bryan Kohberger has chosen silence. And in doing so, he's sentenced the families to a different kind of prison, one where they are locked in with their unanswered questions forever. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our justice system. It forces us to ask, is justice about what the victims' families want, or about what the state decides is best? The Goncalves family wanted the death penalty in a trial. They got neither. Does that mean justice wasn't served? It forces us to question how we treat survivors. Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk were subjected to conspiracy theories and harassment because people thought they should have acted differently. Would you have called 911 immediately if you were frozen with terror? Can you really say what you would do in a situation you've never faced? It forces us to consider what punishment actually accomplishes. Kohberger will die in prison. Does that bring anyone peace? Does it undo anything? Or is punishment simply what we do because we don't know what else to do when evil touches our lives? And perhaps most importantly, it forces us to sit with the reality that some questions don't have answers. We want motives. We want explanations. We want crime to make sense because if it makes sense, maybe we can prevent it next time. But what if it doesn't make sense? What if some people are capable of terrible things for no reason we can comprehend? That's the scariest truth of all. Not that monsters exist, but that they might not have reasons that would satisfy us even if they told us. For young people are gone. 2 survivors carry trauma they'll never fully shed. Multiple families are fractured forever, and the person responsible has given us nothing but silence. This is the Idaho murders, a case that reminds us that legal closure and emotional closure are not the same thing. That justice doesn't heal wounds, it just names them. And that some questions will haunt us not because we can't find answers, but because the answers might not exist. Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin deserve so much more than what they got. They deserve to live, to grow, to love and be loved, to make mistakes and learn from them, to become whoever they were meant to be. Instead, they became names in a case study, evidence in a trial, victims of someone else's incomprehensible choice. The least we can do is remember them not as victims, but as people, as someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's best friend, someone who mattered deeply to someone else. That's the only closure that means anything. Not a verdict, not a sentence, just memory, just love that refuses to end even when life does. If you've made it this far, you understand something important. This channel isn't about entertainment. It's about understanding, about honoring victims by telling their stories truthfully, about examining our justice system with all its flaws and complexities. That's what we do here at Dark Trail Files. And if that resonates with you, if you believe these stories deserve to be told with care and respect, then this is your community. We'll see you in the next investigation. Until then, remember their names. Kaylee, Madison, Xana, Ethan, 4 lights that should still be shining. This is Dark Trail Files.